Today I want to talk about the England under-21s team. Currently the under-21 Euro Championship is taking place. England are actually doing quite well. They've progressed out of the group stage as we speak. I kind of wanted to look at the players individually. Obviously there's a few top performers there, and I wanted to kind of maybe just assess the squad and just see what kind of talent we have coming through, potentially reaching into the first team in future. There's always an argument that the best players tend to skip the under-21s level and they can go straight in. You do have a lot of young players in there. We saw the likes of Trent, Alexander-Arnold go to the World Cup at only 19. We've got the likes of Saka in there as well. You know, a lot of the top talent, especially in the Premier League, you see already kind of breaking on the scene before they're 21. The likes of Phil Foden has kind of been in and around the scene since he was young. Raheem Sterling. Players like this, you know, if they've got the talent, they'd already crack in there probably a bit earlier than this level. But even still, there's a few names I wanted to go through that I think potentially will eventually get into the men's first team. Obviously, there's always a huge step up when you go from under-21s level to men's, especially the England team right now. I think there's quite a talented group of players in there. So, you know, when we look at these players, there's already going to be still quite a step up for them to get into the team. But anyways, I just thought there was a few noteworthy names that we should probably point out. What we'll do, we'll start off with the squad. I've got it in front of us here. We'll have a look through and we'll go through and just kind of give a bit of a prediction, or maybe put my opinion out on whether these guys can eventually get into the first team, maybe what position, and yeah, I guess kind of what the future holds for them. So yeah, I guess starting off with the goalkeepers, we've got Griffiths, Rushworth and Trafford. I think England have actually, right now, probably got some decent keepers. I wouldn't say any are completely world-class that are blowing your mind away. The likes of Ramsdale, Pickford, Pope, these are the guys that went to the World Cup, and obviously they're all very good. They're all playing at the top level, all in the Premier League. I don't think any of these guys here are really going to be anywhere near that level. They're not going to be first-team keepers in the Premier League, potentially in future, but already, yeah, there's probably not too many noteworthy names here that are too much to point out. Maybe again, same can be said for the defenders. I think these guys are all quite young. We do see a few of them in the Premier League as well, but not too many big names there that I really want to spend too much time talking about. The biggest thing for me, I guess, is when we start to look at midfielders. That's when we start to make some ground up here. Already, you have some more recognisable names, some guys that we see week in, week out in the Premier League. Jamie Carragher actually picked this guy in particular as his signing of the season, Morgan Gibbs-White. He was the record transfer at Nottingham Forest, who famously signed more than 20 players. I think it was 23, 24 this year after their promotion to the Premier League. Huge squad overhaul. And Gibbs-White, you know, he kind of came in, kind of a bit of a number 10, bit more of a playmaker, chipped in with a few goals, few assists, and he's certainly one I can see in future getting a call up to the men's team, or the first team, should I say. Yeah, some people potentially might be asking the questions already. Has he done enough? Was it a good enough season for him personally to already be in there? The thing about making that step up is there is a lot of quality already in the England squad. So, you know, it's a case of who would you take out and give a spot to this guy. So yeah, currently I wouldn't say that he would get in there personally over anyone who's already in there, but certainly one for the future. The other four names that are arguably in that same bracket, we've got Anthony Gordon there, Curtis Jones, Cole Palmer and Jacob Ramsey. We do see Oliver Skipp play for Tottenham, you know, maybe on rotation. I don't think he's a first team on the team sheet, or kind of first 11 type player. And I think in terms of ability, he's probably still just a little bit below those other guys. Obviously, a Liverpool fan myself, I see a lot more of Curtis Jones than the other guys, as I watch obviously a lot more Liverpool games. And I think he's quite a decent midfielder. I don't have any predictions that he's gonna, you know, hit the heights that his teammate Trent has probably got a bigger name and doing a lot more in the game than Curtis is at a very similar age. For me, if I had to pick one out of those four, I think Gordon's probably the match winner. He obviously had a more public move to Newcastle. I know he upset a lot of the Everton fans there, the way he left and kind of celebrated against them after they beat them in the league. But the way he kind of did so well at the start of the season, chipping in with his goals, getting Everton over the line in a lot of those games, scoring goals when they needed it. I think he's probably the best. I think Cole Palmer, very talented guy as well. We can see him coming off the bench a lot for Man City. The unfortunate thing for him is the fact, I mean, it's kind of funny to say it, but it's unfortunate he plays for Man City because that team is so good, and for a young player like that, you see it a lot at the top level, a lot of the top clubs. You know, it's not always the very best pathway for young players who probably need game time and match experience probably more than anything else. He's competing with some of the best players in the world. I've done a recent video ranking their treble-winning team, but he's really going to struggle to get game time in that team when he's competing with Foden, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, just to name a few. So yeah, when he comes on, he's certainly got all the ability. He's got everything you need, but it's probably, on a weekly basis, he's probably missing out on a lot of football that he probably needs. And again, probably want to see a bit more of him. Jacob Ramsey's had a great year for Aston Villa. Villa as well, securing European football. First time in a while. He certainly looks like a promising talent. Again, I wouldn't be calling his name out, saying that he deserves to be in the England squad right now. I can't really think of someone who's played in their most recent squad that he deserves to be in ahead of, but he's certainly an exciting player. He's chipped in with a lot of assists and goals this year. He already at a young age seems to be quite a predominant figure in the Aston Villa squad, and yeah, again, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him, and I can certainly see him one day getting into the England squad. It might just be a case of when. But yeah, that just about does it. I think probably the other names there, obviously great players, but probably just not doing enough at this stage in their career for me to be talking too much about them and kind of wondering what's going on there. But yeah, we'll move on to the forwards as well. As you'll see on screen, we've got a few names there, and I guess the biggest two that I wanted to definitely talk about was firstly Harvey Elliott, and the second one, probably no surprise, is Emil Smith-Rowe. Smith-Rowe, had a great season at Arsenal. Arsenal as a whole did well. I think he was probably not in the team as much as he was last year. I think it was probably the season before where he probably had a better year in terms of goals and assists and kind of getting the output that kind of claimed a few more headlines. Arsenal, as we know, had a great season, competing for the league. They were top spot for a while there. And it was more a case of Saka and Martinelli playing out wide. We had Jesus up front there and a few other young players that they rotated in around. I think he's certainly a good player. He's not far away from England call-up. You see his teammate Saka, who's probably in a similar situation, and he's up there playing for the men's team. However, I think there's quite a gulf there between the two of them. I think Saka is by far the much better player. Most people, I guess, would have to agree with that in terms of what he's done already, the experience he's had at World Cups and at Euros, unfortunately missing the penalty. But yeah, I think Saka's obviously probably someone this guy unfortunately would be compared to a lot, but Saka's obviously the much better player. Smith-Rowe I can see getting in there at some stage. I think if he stays at Arsenal and cements himself a spot in the first team, you'll see guys like that getting in and around it. I don't think he's going to blow the world away, but he's certainly got a future in there. And probably last but not least, the guy I wanted to also mention was Harvey Elliott. We see him, I think he might potentially still have the record for youngest player in the Premier League in terms of his debut. Liverpool signed him from Fulham when they got relegated and loaned him out to Blackburn. He had a stint in the Championship there where he did really well. He since came back to Liverpool and was a starter in the first 11. Klopp certainly has a lot of faith in him. We see him doing really well, but again, it's probably just one of those things. He needs that little bit more time to perfect his craft, maybe learn. He's quite a versatile player. We see him at a club level play both on the wing and in a midfield three. So he's certainly got the versatility that England would need when you go away to cup competitions and knockout tournaments. It's always great to have those players that, if you pick up an injury, you can slot someone like him in who can play a number of positions. But yeah, still very young. I think give him a bit more time. We'll have to see what his club career looks like and if he can get a consistent run of games and be a main player, maybe get a few more goals is probably what he still needs to add to his game. But again, I come back to the fact that the England team right now is quite strong. If you're going to put a player like Harvey Elliott in, you're going to take out a very good, experienced player. If he's looking for a spot on the wing and he's competing with, a Rashford, a Grealish, Raheem Sterling, Saka, as we've mentioned, players like that, you're going to take a player like Saka over him, every time, as unfortunate as that is for him. But I just wanted to kind of highlight those names. A lot of people watching along at home, following England at this tournament, they've done quite well. They've had a few headline results, 4-0 against France. France are obviously a great team, and to see England get that result over them certainly caught a lot of attention, and yeah, I think a lot of these guys, you know, they're a lot better than a lot of players that you see at World Cups and Euro tournaments. It's just obviously the fact that they play for England and the England team is relatively quite strong. It is just probably the leading factor as to why these guys will miss out on a spot. But otherwise, I think in conclusion, you know, it's quite a promising future. A lot of young talent here that England have. So I come on here and be that guy. So when you see them on the big screens and setting the world alight in a few years, you know, you've seen it here first. I didn't think I'd need to do the manager Lee, or Lee Carsley. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's just all I really want to touch on today. Just point out a few names and see who's maybe next to get the call up. Potentially someone else who's, you know, not listed here that we're still waiting on. Next year, we'll see England at the Euros again. So it'll just be always interesting to see who kind of gets selected and how well they do. And yeah, it'd be very interesting to see if any of these names that we've looked at today are in that team. But otherwise, yeah, that's essentially all I wanted to touch on. I've been Ant. This has been Redmate. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.